Oh boy, is this live? Is this actually working? Holy fuck. Am I visible? This is I this is the first time that I've used the phone to live stream before. Because in all of my past attempts at live streaming, what I've done instead is to set up my computer, set up OBS, some program like that, and broadcast my screen to the audience, have someone on Discord possibly to join me. And then the only other method that I've used is to go into a Google Hangout and then make the Google Hangout live. Actually used the phone to live stream something before, so I think this is pretty cool. The fact that this can happen, good on YouTube for doing that, for making that technology possible. All day today, I've been trying to figure out what exactly it is that I want to do, because I have this energy to make something, to figure out the next thing that I'm going to build. And I haven't had any ideas. This has been the general problem with me as of late, in terms of making things, is that I have this unquenchable energy to do something, and yet I've had no ideas to do anything. There's this secret channel that I have that probably most of you watching this video don't know about, where I've been making vlogs about an anime series as I've been watching it. And I've fallen off from the show because my problem with anime always is that I'm never in the mood to watch it. I'll watch 1 or 2 episodes and then I'll just forget about it. It's not like with books where I can just sit down and read the fucking thing, you know? With anime, it's like I have to make a concerted effort to actually do something. And so it's been difficult for me to try and figure out what exactly it is that I want to do. I've been watching, I shouted him out in like 2 of my my videos now. I've been watching No Thank You's live streams. I've just been going through all of them because I've needed something to do. And one of the most fascinating things about me, which kind of inspired me to do this live stream in the first place, was how he literally just broadcasts his existence, and yet somehow he can make it entertaining. That he's able to sit the camera or the laptop down, broadcast whatever it is that he's doing, and then just make that into content, and charismatic enough to commentate over it, and yet we're able to parasocially experience his day, his day-to-day existence, because he is literally doing what he would be doing, and he's not talking in any super entertaining capacity. He's not putting on a show pony radio voice and just dancing around. He's just talking a little bit over what it is that he's doing. And I think that's really fascinating because he's able to make it entertaining. But at the same time, the content itself, the stuff that he's talking about and the stuff that he's doing is absurdly mundane, you know? And I've been trying to wrap my mind around how the way that I consume media has been distorted to this extent that I literally will just sit down and consume media of a guy just doing normal everyday things. I mean, the Yashike genre in anime is a great example of this, is that Yashike is literally just footage of just like a guy doing things throughout their day, like Arya, for example. So Arya, it's just very, very slow scenes of characters rowing boats and stuff, and the show goes on for like 50 fucking episodes. So why is it that my brain gravitates towards content like this, and why is it that I'm able to enjoy content like this in spite of how, on a technical level, it's just so mundane? Like, there's nothing there. I don't understand. I don't understand how this is supposed to work. Is there a way that I can view the chat on the phone? I don't actually know if I can. I think I might actually have to switch over to the computer to be able to do this. Um, but yeah, like I've been thinking a lot about this because most of my taste in media is literally this. It's just, oh, okay, I can see the chat. Never mind. Most of my taste in media is watching just watching the most passive things possible. Like a lot of I suffer from the same thing. I want to stop consuming. I mean, I don't think that it's necessarily just like consuming too much. I think it's a matter of being able to being because the thing with me is that I can very easily watch stuff that's passive and boring, but if I watch something that takes a little bit more effort, like if I were to sit down and watch a movie or something, I can't do it because I have to put effort into it. And yet I'll spend hours upon hours just watching YouTube videos that have like barely any words spoken in them and are mainly just background noise. And I can just do that. I can just sit down in this chair right here or on that bed right there or in this chair right here. I don't normally sit in this chair. I can just do that for hours and hours on end. And for some ungodly reason, I can't bring myself to consume anime or like something that just takes a bit more effort. It has to really impress me. I can't watch anime anymore because it takes too much effort, yet I manage to mindlessly do nothing every day. Exactly. Like I will just watch hours upon hours of YouTube because it's easy to do. It's very, very easy to do. Um, but when I try to do something that takes a bit more effort, it's hard. The one of the few things that I actually have been able to do that takes effort is read. I really, really like reading. Um, I can just sit down and read a book for quite some time. It just has to be a book that interests me. But where I'm lucky in that is that most books are interesting to me. I don't have the problem with anime where it's like I have to watch, the best possible thing. I have to watch all of the, most essential classics and stuff like that. I don't think that way when it comes to books. When it comes to books, I just want to read something that has some interesting ideas, something that feels like it's progressing my knowledge in some way. And so, I'll just read for hours. And that's one of the few things where I'm actually able to continue doing it, which is weird because I'm supposed to have ADHD, as they call it, but people with ADHD don't typically read very much, from my understanding. They have trouble focusing on reading. I have trouble focusing on everything else, but I can read and watch YouTube videos. It's just so weird. Let's see, what was I gonna say? Fucking, but I don't know. Like my existence as of late has just been watching a lot of YouTube just so I can kind of fill the void, have something on in the background, reading about, philosophical subjects, trying to get more of a grip on that, and then just walking aimlessly around my room, listening to the same music over and over again. You know, there hasn't been much else. When I try to play video games, I end up just playing the same games over and over again. Like one of my favorite games, Read Culture of Critique. Okay, I've never heard of that book, but I'll look it up. Like one of my favorite video games of all time is Fallout New Vegas. I really, really love that game. And I've played it well over 10 times. Like I've played that game a lot. And I'm always able to go back to it for some reason. There's always these games that I'm always able to go back to where like Psychonauts, that's one of them. GTA 5. Let's see, Ratchet and Clank. Like, see, what are my other favorite games? Metal Gear Solid, uh, Battle for Bikini Bottom, stuff like that. Those SpongeBob games are actually really good, unironically. People don't give enough credit to the SpongeBob games. But like I can just play those same games over and over and over again forever. And most video games I end up not playing, where like right now on my computer, most of what I play is Team Fortress 2 and CS:GO. And CS:GO's been lagging a little bit more lately because my computer's fucking garbage. But I play those two games just all the time. I don't play anything else. You know, I they're not even particularly let's see. I'm currently reading Stoner, and it's a very lonely and stoic novel in every aspect. It's pretty good. Oh, cool. I'm actually going to write that down. Do I have a pencil? I should have a pencil somewhere. Fuck. I don't actually have a pencil anywhere. Oh, wait, no, there's one right here. Stoner. You know, I'm just going to write down Stoner book with my left hand. I'm not left-handed, but I'm doing this anyway. Book. Okay. But I these games aren't even particularly interesting. Like they're very good at being one thing. Because with Team Fortress 2, like it kind of mastered the formula of being a battle royale game. It did, the different matches really well, like all of the different modes in the game. It got it down to a T. And CS:GO, I think it did the same thing, where like they're just really good at being what they are. And it's weird because there isn't very much variation in either game. It's just kind of the same thing over and over again. But the variability comes in all the different people that are playing it. So each time it's kind of different because everybody who's playing it makes it a bigger challenge, and so I'll just play those games over and over and over again because it's easy to put on a podcast. Like I'll even do language learning when I'm playing CS:GO. Like I'll listen to the sample sentences that they have, and then I'll repeat it back while playing the game, and I remember them still. So it's like they're the perfect games to be able to just have on and play over and over again. Toho, I did the same thing with Toho. I have no idea how many times I've played Toho, the embodiment of Scarlet Devil or whatever, because I will just always be playing it if I have something on in the background, just always. And it's kind of insane the amount of Toho that I've played. I really, really love those games. And I feel like they're kind of like an edgy hipster thing to play, but there's something about them where it's just so easy to get lost in Toho because they're difficult. There's enemies and bullets and stuff coming all over the place, and so when I play a level of Toho, I get really easily enveloped in it because there's just so much going on that I get obsessed with it. I really, really love being on the edge of my seat and knowing that I'm progressing in some way as I play the game, getting better at noticing the patterns and so on. So yeah, my taste in video games doesn't really change very much, and it's weird because just 2 years ago, well, maybe not 2 years ago, about 3 years ago, I would play different video games all the time. I was a video game collector for quite a while. I still have many of the games that I collected. I would get things from like the NES and the Nintendo 64 and stuff like that. I would go way back. And I would be playing different games all the time. I would be really into just trying different ones out. And part of me wants to go back to that, but then another part is like, why? You know, why would I want to be trying out all these different games all the time when I can just have fun with the games that I already play over and over and over again? Um, where like I feel like I could play Fortress 2 and CS:GO for hundreds of hours, you know. I feel like I could just do it forever because they've perfectly gotten down one style of gameplay that I really like. I grew up with first person shooters, and so when because the first one of the first video games I've ever played was learn how to play DMC4 Dante. You will feel the satisfying of learning new things. Yeah, that's called opponent conditioning. Um, I've never heard that term before. That's pretty cool. I want to play the Devil May Cry games. The Devil May Cry games look super, super good. Um, why try new games when you know most of them are going to suck? Stick to what you know. Um, yeah, I feel like most new games that are coming out now just like are trying to be the most like carbon copy um like corporate shill type of game that they possibly can. Where like with Apex Legends, for example, like they made that game really cheap. They you know did all of these types of cost cutting measures and such. I believe they even reused assets from like Titanfall and stuff. So they did everything they could to make that game affordable, but it's super successful and it's great for business because everyone and their friends just always play it all the time. And so you can make a fairly cheap game like that. Fortnite, you know, you can make a fairly cheap game like that, and it'll make a ton of money because everyone will just play it all the time. And then they'll tell their friends about it. Even if their friends don't particularly like it, they're going to spend money on it anyway because all of their friends are playing it. And so it's a great business model. And then on the other side, you have all these developers putting in so much money to try and make the biggest AAA game ever. You know, they want to make it look beautiful and have the graphics look great and to, you know, make it just like all of these other games that have sold, except we're going to have prettier visuals this time. You know, we're going to make it look even more epic. And these games end up not being very fun because they focus more on making something sellable, making something a product, while also looking super cool and ambitious. Like visuals are not the thing that matters the most. It's making something that's fun. There's a reason why, you know, people still love playing stuff like the original Super Mario Brothers because the gameplay was solid. You know, there's a reason why we still play Castlevania and Bonk and stuff like that. Like the gameplay was well done in those games, and so people remember them. But you get all these developers now just trying to make the most beautiful thing possible, and it ends up, you know, it ends up failing. So it is unfortunate, but I want to play more video games. I want to try and expand my horizons. It's just it's so easy for me to fall in the pit of playing the same things over and over and over again. Oh boy. These are my media habits. You know, I just play the same things, or I listen to content that you would think I wouldn't even like that much anyway, because there's not much like sustainable content in it. It's just like it's just hi DZ dog. He's in the chat now. A good friend of mine. I'm just rambling incoherently into the camera. There's not much going on. But see, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So I just watch these YouTube videos that tend to be like pretty standard. Like they're just people passively talking about one thing, you know, not being particularly interesting. Maybe they cook something or something like that. You know, not anything particularly interesting, but I just watch tons and tons of these videos. And then I just play the same games over and over again. It gets very boring. I don't live alone. It's just that there's no one home right now. But yeah, like I just walk around a lot around the house, um, but yeah, it's just I've gotten into this habit of just consuming the same things over and over and over again, except for books. Like books are the only thing that I will challenge myself to get into new things. You know, I'll read way more than I consume of any other new stuff. And it's kind of a predicament because I get friends calling me, "Oh, you know, you're a cynic. You're old. You only just consume the same things over and over again." And I don't know. It makes me feel like I'm this weird other figure within the group, you know. And I also think in order to make interesting videos, I have to be taking in more information than just other YouTubers. Like, if I want to make something truly cool and creative, I have to be taking influence from films, whereas what I do is I just take influence from other YouTubers and then I do what they're doing. Reading is like why I play CSGO. I play it to improve, get better, or learn. Enjoying the book is just the side effect of this. Yeah, I mean, I think the appeal of CS:GO and games like that is that like you're able to take the game and then turn it into a goal of its own. You know, you're able to get way better at it in time just by analyzing the systems and analyzing the way other people play it. And so like you're not really enjoying the game itself anymore. You're enjoying the way that you improve at your own skill, you know? Um, I maybe that's why I like reading and playing the same games over and over again. That's actually a good point. Is that it's kind of like you're building your own ability up. I never thought about it that way. Huh. Um, let's see, what was I gonna say? But I'm not particularly good at live streaming. I've begun to realize this is that every single time I live stream, I always have a lot of energy, but I never really say that much of substance. Not that I think the people on YouTube care very much. Usually it's just me. Usually it's just me that cares, whether or not I'm actually saying anything interesting. I'm always my own biggest critic, you know? Other people other people tend to not care very much whether or not I'm making something interesting. Tying your own self-worth to others is slavery, so no need to care. Society is backwards. Yeah, I don't think. Well, I think people are kind of they inherently want a community. You know, they want to be in a group with other people, but like if you tie your entire self-worth to it, then that's when it gets dangerous. You're right. Like if you think that, you know, the way this person reacts to me is the only way that I can be happy, then you're not thinking about the way that other people could react to you. Where like if it's possible for one other person to like you when all of these other people don't like you, then that means you can like yourself as well, you know? Like what should ultimately be as self-utopianism is the way, brother. Yeah, I mean, I think the act of self-improvement is kind of like self-utopianism. Like by trying to find a new way to govern yourself and to be better, to change and whatnot, you're kind of it's kind of like you're having a utopian vision. Not to say that it's wrong or that like it's utopian in the sense that it won't happen, but it's like you're envisioning a big thing, you know. It's good to care too much about what others think and instead try to forge a self that you're the most confident in, that you care about the most. And I think people respond well to that. When the external fails you and the internal is well developed, not to phrase it. I'm terrible at streaming too. I just get so wrapped up in the activity I'm doing while I'm streaming. Yeah, like I think it's the act of knowing that you're live, whereas with a YouTube video, you can edit it afterwards and you can try and figure out which parts you need to fix. But with a live stream, it's just right there. Are you a David Foster Wallace kid? I've never read David Foster Wallace. I want to. Um, I've tried reading like a little bit of Infinite Jest. I never finished the book. I read it online. That's why. Is that like I read like the first part, and I never finished the book. But it was really interesting. Um, I I I think like I know more about like the life of David Foster Wallace than I actually know about his books because the people around me like him so much. So it was I ended up hearing stuff from them instead of actually reading any of his work. But I do want to eventually. My favorite my two favorite authors are Charles Bukowski and Albert Camus. Uh, let's see. Been reading Dune and the Short History of the West Indies. Oh, cool! I've wanted to read Dune for quite some time. I have a friend who's really into Dune, um, and I've wanted to read that. Um, Bukowski was a warrior, a true tragic hero. Yeah, Bukowski is really interesting to me because most of his work was just for himself. Like he used writing as a way to get over the traumas in his life and the his own mental illness. And so reading his work, it feels really raw and genuine because of that. Like um, I when I was reading Women, like even though it says in the beginning of the book that this is fictional, um, there was watching his interviews and stuff. You could tell that there was a lot of his own personality in the book. That some of these experiences were based on his own, and it feels very special because of that. I mean, Post Office. That's another example. Is that like it's just agreed. It's very easy to renunciate his work in a negative way, especially his lifestyle. Yeah, like I think the thing with him is that he just didn't know another way to deal with these things. Like I think it's more inspiring to look at the positives of where he was able to overcome the his depression and his bad experiences through writing about it. And I think that's the message that people should take and not say, oh, he was a drunk and all of this other stuff. Yeah, that's bad, but it he was able to overcome these horrendous experiences that he had in his childhood through becoming an artist, and I think that's really inspiring. So that kind of raw grit to his work is very special. um, and I like Camus a lot because I also think he's very inspiring. The whole idea of overcoming the absurd and stuff like that, of just embracing life as it is instead of trying to question the meaning is very special to me. And when I read The Strange, I read it all. Am I a writer? I do creative writing sometimes, but it's mostly like a stream of consciousness thing, just for fun. I don't take it very seriously. Um, I let's see, Eljardo Jordansky. I can't say that. Films also seem like they were made for therapy as a therapeutic way for him. Yeah, like I think a lot of artists do that. Is that um, artists oftentimes tend to have these like they tend to use their art as a way to cope with what they're dealing with, and I think everyone does that to some extent when they're dealing with problems. Is that like it just happens to be that artists enjoy making art, so they use art to deal with their problems. But if someone doesn't enjoy art, they may use video games or use talking to friends or building houses or something. I think everyone has these little things that work for them, but with artists, they're especially interesting because they use their art as a way to express their problems to other people in a more abstract way, and then other people can say, oh, I relate to that. I think it's very cool. My worst fear is making derivative art where you mimic others' work with less quality. This rambling is too incoherent. Hello, no thank you. But yeah, I have that. I've had that fear for a long time as well. Not being able to stand out from other people. Where like I do this YouTube show, and this YouTube show is the main thing people know me for. But I want to leave a bigger impact on this world. You know, to be remembered for something bigger than YouTube, because you know I can ramble all day into a camera and I can write video essays and stuff, but it's not going to have the same impact as like directly doing something that affects someone's life or making a big art piece, you know? And so I've spent a lot of time thinking about, you know, what kind of art am I going to make that stands out from what other people are doing and that means something? Because every story has been told, like the basic elements of every single story have been told. It's all about making it specific. You know, what inside of me do I have to tell that's a little bit different, you know? And so, like, the basics of every story has always been told. You know, it's more a matter of trying to find your own personal voice. You know, you can have a personal voice while telling the same story. And so, in my opinion, at least, it's the most important to try and find that personal voice, what it means to you. I'm kind of over being remembered and having a legacy. I mean, good for you. It's very difficult for people to do that. Every generation needs the same stories recycled. It's true, because there's a reason why people tend to tell the same stories, is because they, you know, they have good lessons in them. You know, there's a reason why people repeat the same things over and over again, is because oftentimes it's true. And so I think the way to market it to a different generation is just to speak to their culture, not like put emojis in the movie or something like that, but do something that means something to young people. Like, talk about younger people's relationship with the internet in a deep way while giving them a lesson, you know? Coping. The fact that we have to cope is sick in itself, but that's life. You have. I actually didn't get to read the rest of that because the YouTube chat turns it off. YouTube is tough. I think it can be a venue for affecting others in a positive way, but your intentions have to be sincere. Like you said, it's a process of discovering what you have to offer. Exactly. Like, if it isn't truly what you mean, you know, if you're not doing it because it means something to you, then, you know, there's no point in doing it at all. You know, people want to do it for money and stuff like that, but it's just a game of luck, you know? And I mean, I think even though it is hard, it ends up being all the more meaningful when you make that thing that really means something to you, that expresses what you've wanted to express all this time. There's certain videos of mine that I really like a lot, because they said something that I wanted to say all this time. Art is rubbish, abolish art. Yes. Right? Because it is meaningful to you, not because others will enjoy it. Exactly. Yeah, because if you're able to make something that you've always wanted to see, then you've succeeded. Like, the reason why I don't make videos on a schedule, or I don't do my creative writing on a schedule, which I haven't released publicly anywhere, but the reason why I don't do these things in this kind of structured way is because I do it because I like to do it. And the only reason why I do so much of it is because I want to do so much of it, you know? When I was starting out, there was a bit more of a schedule to it. I thought more about how can I make it to this point, but eventually I realized forcing myself to do videos that way just wasn't, it just wasn't the way to go. And I was a lot more happier making videos when I took away that kind of self-critical element of only doing videos, because of you, and you on ThinkTon have balls of steel for being able to verbalize streams of consciousness. I appreciate it. I've made 1,000 videos on YouTube, so at this point, it just comes naturally to me. Well, if you want to capitalize on it, then you need to find a niche others haven't found. I tried to, but okay, your chat message just fell down again. I hate how on the YouTube app, when you're streaming from the phone, it shows the chat messages for a little bit, and then it gets rid of them. Yeah, like, for me, I've done it so many times by this point that it's just something that I immediately go to, even though I'm not the best at it. Like, I've been able to get rid of that anxiety that I had towards YouTube because I've just done it so many times at this point. Like I said, 1,000 videos on YouTube. That's a lot. And I've been doing it for the last 4 years. Like, I started out on YouTube in a serious way in February of 2015 when I was making gaming videos. And back then I didn't make a lot of content because I didn't really have equipment. But there were people who, like Majority, who was in the chat, who just pushed me to keep making more things, and it excited me. It excited me that I had that kind of support. I just didn't know what to do with that energy. And so 2016, mid to late 2016, has it been therapeutic or cathartic? Yeah, oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. My videos, without my videos, I would not have been able to get through a lot of things. This has always been my soapbox. A lot of people, they have a therapist or someone that they go to talk about things. I just went to a camera, and I always feel better afterwards. But no, I started out back then, and I wasn't really making much. But then at like mid to late 2016, I started like making a vlog like every single day. And then from 2017 onward, I was kind of on and off with making videos. But at the start of 2018, I had this commitment of like, I'm going to make as many videos as I can. And from then, I've just continued doing it, and I've continued to see myself improve as a result of that. So, 4 years, it's been a rocky time. A lot of changes have happened. I've changed the way that I've done my content so many fucking times by this point. It's insane. And I've had a lot of different audiences. The people who were dedicated stayed, and people who... How old am I? I am 16 years old. I'm turning 17 in April of this year. So I'm turning 17 relatively soon, but I am 16 years old. But yeah, like, oh geez, I'm just thinking about that now. Is that I'll turn 17 soon. That's such a terrifying thought, because I was talking earlier about. Have you read Kami-san is Bad at Communicating? I have not read Kami-san is Bad at Communicating. I've heard of it. I've heard of it from a lot of people, but I haven't read it yet. I will read it if I can find a physical version of that. I am not on that life of reading manga online. It's so hard. It's so hard for me to read manga online. You have no idea. I've tried it on a Kindle. I've tried it on the phone. I've tried it on the computer. I'm never able to do it. So if I find a physical version, I can do it. 17 is terrifying. I'm gonna be 30 in a few more years. Oof. Oh geez. Yeah, I can't imagine that. It's gonna be interesting when I turn 30. That's, yeah, the 13 more years. That's going to be really interesting. I hope I'm all able to write something about that one day. Yeah, like, I have so much trouble reading manga. I have so much trouble reading manga because if I look at the screen and I'm trying to read something, it just feels wrong, because I grew up reading manga. I don't actually know if I have them in this room, but I had my Shonen Jump. Um, oh fuck, the chat died once. Uh, if I was as self-aware as you at 16, I'd have life by the balls by 19. I'd be a prodigy. Oh, thank you. That's sweet. No, I don't think I'm actually that self-aware. As people tell me in my comments that I'm self-aware, but what I actually do is I just talk for very long amounts of time, and then it looks like I'm self-aware, but I'm actually not that self-aware. So, I let's see. Have you ever read Oyasumi Pun Pun or Goodnight Pun Pun? Um, I've heard of it. I've watched a lot of videos about Oyasumi Pun Pun, but I've never read it. I do know that's physical, so I'll probably buy that one day. Um, but yeah, like my issue is always just it's so good. Yeah, I've heard it's so good. Have I read Dostoevsky? I have not read Dostoevsky. I want to. He seems really interesting and cool, but I have not yet. But it will also literally kill you. You will be dead. Yeah, I believe it. I watched this YouTuber called Hiding in Public, and I don't like a lot of his videos because I feel like he talks a bit too much about himself instead of just talking about the actual media that he's talking about. And I don't really like his style. Like the Ava videos he made, the Evangelion videos he made are so bad. I really hate those videos. But he made this great video on Oyasumi Pun Pun, and it was heart-wrenching watching that. Like it felt like I was gonna tear up. So it's affected other people that much to make a video like that. I know it's probably gonna be very good. Oh geez. Oh my god, Hiding in Public's Ava videos. Jesus Christ, those videos pissed me off. I really, really hate Evangelion. I'll reply to your comments in the next episode. About what? I'm confused. About Ava? Reply to my comments in the next episode of what? About what? I'm confused. Quentin Tarantino is a standalone complex. I was talking to Kay Anderson. Oh, okay. Quentin Tarantino is a good man. He didn't he do his own, like he did the screenplay and directed his own movies. Insane. What don't you like about Ava? Everything. Everything. I hate everything about Ava. That's such a bloated question. There's a reason. Ava is my least favorite anime, other than Sword Art Online, and Mob Psycho 100. Ava is my least favorite anime, because like everything about what Ava represents, and like the way that it's made, the way that it tells its story is, I hate it. I hate it a lot. Like watching Ava physically hurts to watch. Like it's that boring. I hate Shinji. I think Gendo was the only one who was at least a little bit right in the show, but then he ruins it by, being upset about his dead wife or whatever, and that's the reason why he does the wire. What's wrong with Mob Psycho? Mob Psycho, I just think is really boring. Like a lot of the show is just like really absurd humor, but it feels so similar to other anime. Like watching Mob Psycho is like watching JoJo for me, and I really, really hate JoJo. Like that. If you want to talk about my other least favorite anime, JoJo is definitely there. I fucking hate JoJo. So like Mob Psycho, I can understand why people like the message of the show. I think it has a good message, but the way that it conveys the message is just so bad, in my opinion, because I hate the style of humor Mob Psycho has. I really, really hate that style of humor. It just feels like normal anime. Besides its overpopularity, did I like Death Note? I do like Death Note a lot. I think it's a great show. It's like a solid 9 out of 10. It's very, very good. Weirdly enough, I tend to like the anime that's closer to Western TV. Like, I really love Parasite, the anime series Parasite. I like FMA, and Death Note and these types of things because it feels closer to the best that Western TV could do. Because my favorite piece of art, like piece of art ever, is BoJack Horseman, and it's a Western drama. Well, it's a cartoon, but just watch Western TV shows and movies. I mean, I do that already. It's just the problem is that the only Western TV shows and movies I like are the best ones. And so, well, with movies, I kind of like just ones that are really violent. But Higurashi, do I like Higurashi? I've never watched or read Higurashi. I plan to read Higurashi because my friend Mr. Cynical kept telling me to read it for like the last 2 years. So I'm gonna read Higurashi one of these days. Should I watch the anime? I hear the anime is bad. Watch some Hong Kong action films. You've got yes. Oh my God, yes. Hong Kong makes the best action films. Um, Jackie Chan, all these types of things. Over, lefty sentiments, overbloated action, kung fu. Oh boy, where is it going with this? Is it a lefty sentiment to like overbloated action? It's the best. I agree. Um, I want to watch this movie called Death Wish, from the 1970s. This action film called Death Wish. Rambo, and those types of movies tend to be my favorite. Have I watched Train Spotting 1996? I have not. Um, but so my favorite films are Rambo, um, this movie called Train Man, from Japan, which is just this romantic comedy about this guy who like asks 2 Channel on how to get with this girl after he helps her from being groped on a train. It's very, very good. Um, 2001: A Space Odyssey. I like basically all the movies that Stanley Kubrick did. Like all of Stanley Kubrick movies are my favorite. Um, I like. Have I seen All About Lily Choo Choo? I have not. I've wanted to see that movie for the last like year and a half. It looks really, really good. I watched a pretty decent mindless martial arts film called featuring Gact called Bunkaru. I can't say that. It is really good. Yeah, I think I would love All About Lily Choo Choo. My favorite film, my favorite film of all time is Love and Pop by Hideaki Anno. That I love Love and Pop so much. Like the way that the film is shot, the content of the film, the message, it's so good. Uh, Love and Pop is an amazing movie. My favorite. Kubrick's aesthetic is masterful. His apathy and coldness is the best. Yeah, he does good work. The Shining. I watched that movie when I was like 8 years old, and like it changed the way that I saw movies forever. And I remember because being 8 years old, that was a specific year for me because I saw the movie Alien. Um, I saw Alien and I saw The Shining at the same time, and I saw Cujo. Cujo is fucking great. I love that movie. Um, I saw all three of those movies when I was 8, and it kind of reshaped the way that I saw films ever since then. I remember when I was 5 years old, I saw Pet Cemetery based on the Stephen King novel, and that I really loved that movie back then. I have no idea what I would think of it now, but I liked horror movies a lot, like Evil Dead. Oh my fucking god, Evil Dead is so good. I saw that movie when I was like 9 years old, and it changed the way that I saw movies forever. I know I've said that a lot about a lot of movies, but like that I love that movie so much. Oh my god. Okay. Uh, I gotta calm down. Um, Trainspotting is a British film about a heroin addict and his descent through addiction and recovery in a deprived area of Scotland. I think it was rated 10th best British film of the 20th century. Um, okay, cool. I gotta check that out. Evil Dead 2 is Sam Raimi's magnum opus. I completely agree. I like the TV show that they've been doing, Ash versus the Evil Dead. I haven't caught up on the latest season, but that if you want to watch a good TV show, like that is definitely in my like 3 by 3. That's in my top 9 TV shows of all time. Um, there's another show from the 80s that I like a lot called Greatest American Hero. It only had 2 seasons, but it was a very good, like, it was a cop show because, I mean, there was an FBI investigator in it, but then there was just this normal guy called Ralph Hinckley who, gets a hold of this. Oh, hello there. Oh, hi. It's a Swedish friend. Okay. Um, well, there's this guy Ralph Hinckley who gets a hold of this suit and he becomes a superhero and stuff, and it's very cheesy, but like the personality of the characters and the acting within the show, the plots and stuff, it had a really good plot. If you want to watch a good TV show from the 80s, watch Greatest American Hero. It didn't last very long, too. It only lasted like 2 seasons, but I've watched those 2 seasons so many times, man. I've watched them so many times, and it's a really good show. I watched that when I was very young. I like the TV show Psych. It was on the USA Network. The first season is probably the best season of Psych, but really most cop shows like Law and Order. Law and Order is a good show. I feel like a lot of people diss Law and Order as like, oh, it's so bad, but I like watching Law and Order. But Psych and the show Monk, those shows were the best. Those shows were the best on the USA Network. Because they added comedy into the idea of making a detective show. How do you feel about the democratization of the arts, i.e. multiple writers on one project instead of one unique voice? Well, I think it depends on the project. Like, if one guy wants to make, wants to make their artistic vision and they have a really strong vision, then they should make that. But like, if it's an idea that benefits more from a group dynamic, then a group should make it. Like Phil Lord and Chris Miller have always worked on stuff together because they do very well together. Like, I don't think Clone High or the Lego Movie or 21 Jump Street would have been nearly as good if not for both of them being together, because they were a dynamic. They played off of each other's strengths, and so the films were better as a result of them working together. But if you're in a Quentin Tarantino situation where he writes the movie, he directs the movie, he does the screenplay, I think it benefits more because he knows exactly what he wants to do. He understands what he needs to make. Let's see here. Yeah, but look how they got screwed on Solo. I haven't watched Solo yet. I heard it's very bad. I watched Into the Spider-Verse this year, and that's one of my favorite movies, straight up. And I believe Phil Lord and Chris Miller worked on that. They did the screenplay or something, or they wrote part of it. But if you want to watch a very good movie, watch Into the Spider-Verse. I was thoroughly surprised at how good that was, because I thought it was just going to be like a dumb kids movie, but it's really, really good. Let's see. They were fired as directors, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, because they had different ideas from the execs. Yeah, that's the problem with these kinds of, with a big franchise like Star Wars. If you don't want to do what the corporate elite at the top wants you to do, then you're not going to be able to make your art piece. And I mean, in a different world where they just had all of the money there, where they just had the resources, they could just make the movie anyway because IPs wouldn't exist and stuff. But, unfortunately, this is just what we got to deal with. I was very happy that Guardians of the Galaxy got to be made because James Gunn, first of all, the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise wasn't really marketable as a movie in the first place, but because it was a Marvel movie, people went to go see it and it was successful. But I think it was really lucky that they just let James Gunn do what he wanted to do, and then we got a really great movie out of that. So sometimes, sometimes the exec behind these studios do the right thing and they let the artist make something cool, but a lot of the time it's just too much of a financial risk for them, so they end up getting a prettier face that's gonna make something that's not necessarily creative, but something that will make money. So it is unfortunate, but it's how the system works. Um, I really want to get into more like independent movies that are, have interesting ideas and stuff, and work to experiment with the movie, because I I haven't really delved into experimental movies very much, but I like the style a lot. Because Love and Pop is my favorite movie, and if you've seen that, then you know just how experimental they go with the cinematography. I would like to make a movie that's like Love and Pop. I had a plan for the last like year and a half to make a movie that's similar to Love and Pop. Um, and I've gone through a bunch of different, like, writing the screenplay and then coming up with ideas and trying to figure out the logistics of how to make it work. Um, and it's been a very hard process. It's always been like I put it on the back burner and then wait to do it again at some point, but then I never get to it. Um, but I would like to make a Love and Pop inspired movie. I think that would be cool. Oh, geez. Mm, I've been talking for so long. Um, Slow cinema is very intellectually stimulating, especially films from Tarkovsky or Bellatar. Yeah, Tarkovsky. I love Tarkovsky. Stalker is one of the best movies ever made. Definitely 3x3 material right there. He knew what he was doing. And let's see. Hell yeah, yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, Andrei Tarkovsky is one of my favorite directors. Um, see, I forgot what I was gonna. There's this really interesting like satire movie from Poland that was made in the '80s about like some kind of bear. It was about a stuffed bear or something. I wanted to watch that. Um, there's a lot of great movies out there. Not just to rewatch, but um, to go and experience, because I've seen a lot of classics, but there's so many movies that I haven't seen that I want to watch. Um, this is ironic because like yesterday or the day before yesterday, I was talking about how much I hate art and how there's just nothing to consume anymore. But if you look at movies, it's like no, there's still tons of movies that I haven't watched. So I'm literally disproving my point to my video response to no thank you right now, live on air. Um, we're getting caught in the contradiction here. Let's see. Yep. There's too much to consume. I wouldn't say there's too much to consume. I would say there's just enough to consume. There's enough out there to continue to continue having things, and then when people make new things, it's going to be pretty good. I've been watching this show called After the Rain. Uh, are you an anti-boomer like you on Think Ton? I didn't know he was an anti-boomer. Uh, am I an anti-boomer? Um, kind of, but mostly not. I think boomers. It should come down to the individual. I think it's dangerous to loop the entire generation together. Where like, yeah, a lot of boomer-ish sentiments can be pretty bad, but like if you look at just normal people, a lot of them have the same sentiments too. Like, I mean, I grew up in Tennessee, and so maybe this is different from the UK, but in Tennessee, the boomers and the young people are basically indistinguishable because they're saying the same things. It's just that they made great art. We still need to prove ourselves. Exactly, exactly. The boomers made the best art. They did all of the best work. So like, I don't think it's good to discredit the whole generation when there were a lot of amazing thinkers and artists that came from that time. the modern era doesn't really have very many people like that. Like we have Tao Lin, and I mean Tao Lin is in his 30s, but I mean Taipei is pretty cool from the little bit of it that I've read. And you know, we let's see, boomers also gave us the worst architecture. They gave us some pretty cool architecture. Brutalism's good, but like uh let's see, their access to excess, so it's limited for us. Um I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. Like with us, I think we have too much stuff. We have too much stimulate. Brutalism is disgusting. That is, I completely disagree with that. But I mean, it's your aesthetic, man. Look at whatever it is that you enjoy. But I'm personally a brutalist fanboy. Shut the fuck up, boomer. Did you like Clockwork Orange? I have not watched Clockwork Orange. I should. It's one of those things where like I've seen it parts of it on TV, but I never watched the whole movie. Um, let's see, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so in Tennessee, the boomers they tend to talk the same way that the Zoomers do. Where the Zoomers they're on social media and stuff. Take the Roger Scruton pill and destroy brutalism. I don't even know who that is. Where like the Zoomers in Tennessee, yeah, they're more tech savvy, but they're all on Facebook. Like they're not on like image boards and stuff like that. I was always the guy who was on image boards and going into the deep depths of the internet. And so I was completely different than the other kids in my school. The kids in my school, the things that they would say, you know, their worldview, it was exactly the same as the old people. And so like I don't know, I think people's problems with boomers isn't really that boomers are bad. It's just that normal people in general are bad in the area that they're in. Where like I don't know. I think old people. It comes down to the individual. I think I don't know. I don't like grouping people in this way to say all of this person is bad or all of that group of person is bad. That's when you get into Hitler-esque territory, and I don't want to do that. Normies are bad, but boomers hold the power, and they're especially bad with technology. Well, I don't think normies are inherently bad. It's just that a, it depends on what your definition of normie is. Because if you're taking one group of people and you're saying all of the people that have this worldview are a normie, then yeah, they're bad because you disagree with that worldview. But normal people in general, I consider a normie to be people who can hold down a job, people who can, you know, interact normally in society every single day and don't particularly have very weird interests. That's a normie. And that's a totally varied group. Like you can't just say all normal people are bad, because if you said that, then like most of the population would be bad. And I think there's a lot of valuable things that people have, even though they're normal. Don't lie. You're like Fritz Gerald. You wish you could be part of the normies. Hey. um, I mean I think a lot of people do. Most of the population would be. I know where you're going with this. I know it. Did I stutter? Exactly. Which I disagree with this because I used to be a misanthropist. I'm actually a philanthropist now. I think that people people are going to disagree with me, is that I have this Confucianist belief that people are inherently good. It's just that they've been misled in the right direction, and it's the job of friends to be able to give other people support and to try and lead them in the right direction. But ultimately, they have to make that step themselves. But people, you can find a way to live with other people. It's just that you have to try. If you give up, yeah, of course you're not going to be able to live with other people, but you have to make a compromise, and you have to be able to teach yourself. uh Evil is mostly the result of stupidity, not inherent evil. What makes someone good or bad? That's a bloated question. I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer that on this live stream. That's a lot. But it's basically, I think it's about having the humility to admit that you have flaws as well, and that you're not the best person that there is. And so you're able to look at other people and then say that, you know, that they have those problems as well. It's almost like good and bad don't exist. The post brought to you by Red the Spook Book Gang. Oh damn. And we're getting some Max Stirner stuff in here. I think moral objectivism is real. I don't think you can say that one thing is morally good inherently, because people have different definitions of what's morally good and bad. It's a gray area. It's too complicated. You can't, you know, I'd rather take it by a case-by-case basis. My thing is that I want to judge people by being individuals. I don't want to have these broad ideas about what is good or bad. I don't want to have these broad ideas about this group is good or this group is bad. You have to go by what the individuals say. You have to, different people need different rules applied to them based on their circumstances and conditions. I don't think it's fair just to say this is inherently good or this is inherently bad. Obviously, stuff like murder and stuff are inherently bad, but let's see. Murder with a good reason was morally accepted a couple hundred years ago. Now in modern society, it's one of the worst possible things to do. It's a pretty bad thing. Murder of the bourgeoisie is fine. I mean, only in the instance in which a revolution is the only possible way to fix the society for the, you know, the betterment of all people. If you've wrestled with a society for long enough to where, you know, your only option is revolution, then yes. But it's still, I would still feel bad for it in a revolutionary scenario, because they're people, you know, even though they've done horrible things, I would still feel bad. They're people. So, yeah, like it, if you're going to, let's see, what makes murder bad? Not that I think it's good, but just curious what parameters makes it near universally accepted that it is bad. I don't think there's a lot of logical arguments for why murder is bad, for me at least. I just think it's bad because I think it's gross. Morality is a good justification. Well, it depends. But you could be wrong about your morality, though. You could always be wrong about it. And in the event that you're wrong about it, then what if you killed somebody who's innocent, you know? I think it's better just to... Ah, man, that is a tough question. You guys are hitting me with the hard stuff right now. Oh, mortality. Okay. Okay, mortality. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Do I like Overlord? I've never watched Overlord. Let's see. Okay, so my argument for why murder is bad is that in the course of someone's life, they have the chance to be better. And so if you murder someone before they can do that for themselves, then you've essentially taken that option away from them. You've imposed your own will and your worldview onto someone else instead of allowing them to eventually come to their own conclusion. You're impeding their freedom. And so by taking these authoritarian actions against someone else, you know, you're not allowing them to be able to change for themselves, because they may think right now doing what I'm doing is horrible, or excuse me, doing what I'm doing is good, while I think it's horrible, but they should have the chance to redeem themselves and to think that what they're doing is horrible later on. So if I kill them for doing the horrible thing right now, I'm not giving them the chance to change, and everyone deserves that. I think everyone can be redeemed. Everyone can become a better person if they try. So you condone self-destruction if it's their choice. Absolutely. I think suicide is a human right. And if someone wants to end their own life, they should absolutely do it. Oh, geez, that sounded horrible the way I said that. And I'm also for legalizing all drugs. I think there should be information. Like, people should know what drugs do. Before we legalize them, there should be public education about drugs. But all drugs should be legal because it should be your freedom. It should be your freedom to do drugs. If that's how you want to live your life, then go for it. I do think that if you go into one of these clinics and say, I want to kill myself, you should you should sit there and have to sign a bunch of stuff. You should be given a therapist first, and there should be regulations in place that make sure that you are that far gone before you kill yourself. Um, so I don't think people should just come into the room and say, I can kill myself, and then they kill you with euthanasia or whatever. There should be some measures in place to make sure this person can't be saved yet. But beyond that, give them some mushrooms, let them smoke some pot, let them spend some time with their family, and then, they get injected in the arm and then they're gone. It should be their choice. Abortion should be legal up to 3 years after birth. Jesus Christ. That's horrible. Let's see. I mean, I know it's a joke, but that's like, ew. Ugh. Reconnecting. Is it? Oh boy, we're back. Hello. It's working again. TFW, the stream isn't loading. Same. Well, I guess everyone left. Because there's only 2 viewers. There we go. Yeah, it looks like everyone left. Sad. Back up. Okay. The thing with legalizing all drugs, like heroin, is that usually the people who are doing them are doing them because they aren't well. I don't think always. Like, I think sometimes people just choose to do stuff like that because that's the life that they want to live. But that's why I think there should be education. There should be education to teach people about the effects of these drugs, and there should be access to mental health services and stuff. Mental health services should be free, and they should be better than they are now. What drugs have I taken? Let's see. I mean, we're an hour and 13 minutes into the live stream. I don't think family of mine will find this. You don't want to talk about drugs too much on. Don't like it. Actually, yeah, that's true. So we'll leave that discussion closed. We'll leave that discussion closed. If you've watched my streams with DZ Dog, you'll probably on one of the more recent ones, you'll see some drug content, including me. I'll let you fill in the blanks with that. But yeah. It's these types of things I don't like to talk about. But I do. There is one thing I will say. I don't think I'm ever going to do anything like cocaine or heroin or any of those things. I don't want to do those things because it literally breaks your brain. Like, it makes your brain worse. Things like LSD, psilocybin, marijuana, stuff like that's generally okay and fine. DMT, ecstasy, all these types of things. Kratom, kava, those types of things are fine. Ketamine. If you want to use those things, cool. But I don't think cocaine and methamphetamines and heroin and stuff would ever be stuff that I would use, because it alters your brain. It destroys parts of your brain that can't be gotten back. Yeah, there are quite a few that I would use. It's just that there's ones that I would never use, because, like cocaine, for example, it destroys connections in your brain that you can't ever get back, that are associated with self-control. And so it's actually very hard for a lot of people to get off of cocaine when they've used it too many times, because the self-control centers in their brain are being actively broken. So there are certain ones that I'll just never use. But stuff like kratom, it's like, as long as you're careful with it, it's totally fine. With legalizing drugs, there always has to be some kinds of regulations to make sure that people who are using them, who need help first, can get that help. Just like I said with the legalizing suicide thing, is that if we're sure that there's no way that this guy can fix themselves, then that's when they should. Portugal decriminalized drugs. It's a good system. I agree. I believe the Czech Republic did the same thing. it's generally better for the population. Decriminalization, as well as stores being open and that type of thing, regulation by the state. Um, while we're on the topic, I did a video about prostitution and why prostitution should be legalized. Legalize sex work. Let's do it. I did a video about that on the Shonen Ronin channel, where I talk about politics with some friends of mine. So it's called "Sex Workers Need Unions, Not Prison Time." I thought it was pretty fun to write that. But yeah, Europe has generally pretty good policies on drugs, or just like progressing further with these types of things in general. I went to Prague, and their prostitutes are very, very fun. Hell yeah. The Netherlands, I heard, is also pretty good for getting up to that type of thing. It felt like Kafka. Very cool. Very cool. I need to read Kafka. But yeah, I want to move all around the world. Sex bots, 3D women. Okay, this is a meme. This I refuse to believe that this is anything other than a meme, or else I'm just gonna lose my faith in humanity. Um, let's see. How do you feel about the term incel? I think incels are just failed normies, because look, incels, they're not involuntarily celibate. No one is ever involuntarily celibate. It's their choosing to be celibate, because you can get a girlfriend, or you can get someone to have sex with you. You just have to train yourself to be able to do it. Like, if you train yourself to be charismatic and fun and stuff like that, then you'll get a relationship. Isn't it an unfair label? A lot of people aren't fucking. Well, I mean, the reason you aren't fucking isn't because you're involuntarily not fucking. It's because you haven't improved yourself, to a point where you can get sex, Imagine you're revolving your personality over not having sex. I know, right? Like, when people identify with it, that's when they go far. Because at that point, they're just choosing not to have sex. Like, they say, "Oh, I'm an incel. You're not entitled to sex." Yeah, exactly. Like, you have to work for it. You can't just be given sex. Like, the state shouldn't just come in and give people wives. That's against people's individual freedom. It's, if you want sex, you should be able to state mandated waifu. You should be able to get to that point on your own. To how much battery is actually on my? Okay, 56%. That's pretty good. Samsung phones have good battery. But you should be able to train yourself to be charismatic enough, go to an area where you can get sex, find someone who you love and care about, and just do it. Conversely, revolving your personality around frivolous sexual encounters is also pretty sad. Exactly. Like, that's why I call incels failed normies, because if they got sex all the time, then and they did what, because I don't believe in the term normie, but they do. And so they want to be normies a lot. And so they revolve their entire, if they had a lot of sex, they would revolve their entire personality around that. If I'm normie and I'm a Chad and stuff, but they don't, so they're an incel. And it's just being failed at being a normie. I think voluntarily celibate people, or volcels as they call themselves, is a better term, because they're choosing to be celibate at that point. They're abstaining the way a religious priest or something would. And I know in Buddhist kingdoms and stuff, there's oftentimes what they'll do is they'll have the Buddhivista or whatever, not have any sex and not do luxurious things. They just live in the mountains. There was this great documentary called Amongst White Clouds, where it just interviewed all of these different Buddhist hermits. I know a femcel on Twitter. That's very rare. They were interviewing all these different Buddhist hermits, and they weren't allowed to have sex. They weren't allowed to eat very luxuriously. They just lived in the mountains, meditated, and grew stuff. You know, they used a hoe and they cut a bunch of ground. They didn't even plant stuff in the ground. They just would cut ground every day, and it was very strange. But they just sat around reading the Buddhist texts, trying to find the meaning of life. She's in love with a school shooter / negative XP. Oh my god. Oh, that's just really sad. Oh, jeez. I see. I've known people that are like that. That they look up to these school shooter figures and stuff, unironically, and it's just so sad. But she seems nice. Yeah, a lot of these people are nice. It's just that their mind is too far gone sometimes. Oh, jeez. That's actually really sad. Fuck. Not a literal school shooter. There's a guy called school shooter. Oh, okay. Okay. Jesus Christ. I was worried there for a moment. He's who makes music. Okay. Okay. That's much better. And you thought my name was stupid. Thanks for clarifying so late. I actually was getting kind of upset there. Jesus Christ, man. The world we live in. I tried to mess around with FL Studio today, but I ended up uninstalling it because I realized using FL Studio is hard, and I don't like it because I want to make like Shinsei Kamata-chan style music, that it's like this mix between noise and pop and stuff. And I was like, okay, learning the basics of this is too hard. I give up. I feel like making music just isn't for me. I started using the synths on FL Studio was fun. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe making music, because it's not fun to me. I don't know if it's a matter of it's not fun to me and so I shouldn't do it, or if I'm just in the beginner phase and it's hard, because there's most things it starts out fun to me and then I keep doing it. Like writing started out fun to me, I kept doing it, and learning languages felt fun to me, so I kept doing it. But video editing is way easier than music engineering. Exactly. With video editing, you know, all you have to do is frame shots and then edit them together. It's just you just edit the footage. Music is, I commend people who can make music. It's very hard. I'll probably learn how to do guitar or something like that. I'll probably learn an instrument, because when I tried to learn how to do guitar a few years ago, it was actually very fun. So maybe I'll become a guitarist of some kind. Oh boy. But yeah, do you find folks in the chat have any other questions or any hot takes that you want me to give? I'm curious. Oh man. I called this stream Rambling Incoherently, but I really have been just going from subject to subject so much. Let's see. Dot. I always like how on the internet you have to write out specific emotions. Like whenever I'm texting with somebody, I have to figure out how to word things in just the right way to get the emotion across, or I have to italicize certain things or capitalize certain things so I can get the emotion across, or else the joke that I'm making just doesn't make sense. Because you have to prove to me how the Holocaust is real and why I should treat it like a sacred cow. The Holocaust is real because there's that's such an absurd, like, let's see, oof, no hope for you, pal. Yeah, I mean, if you don't believe the Holocaust is real, there's no reason to believe any history is real. Are you from Pole? I'm pretty sure the guy was just joking.
I don't think he actually believes that. But I'm so used to seeing people who actually believe that. I got a response from NeuroSkew a 2 month about a 2 month long comment. Oh geez. So for context, DZ Dog made this video response to this very cringy YouTuber called NeuroSkew, who I believe has literal autism. And apparently there's a back and forth now, but he got famous by defending the Powerpuff Girls reboot, and he's very edgy. He's very cringeworthy. He's the cartoon community has a lot of problems. I used to be part of the cartoon community. My highest viewed video is actually history was written by the victor and the Jews won. There is no sufficient evidence that 60 million died. Um, I mean, there was history written by the Nazis' own archives within their state. There were, I mean, many Nazis even agree that the current Nazis agree that the Holocaust happened and that it's a good thing. So if there, I mean, after the German state dissolved, as it was, there was information that came out of it that they were able to extract. I mean, there's information that letters and stuff that Hitler and members of the Third Reich, like all of this, there's people, there's people who existed at the time who say that it's possible. You're not allowed in our ethno-state Zoomer. Yeah. Because I'm a Zoomer, I'm immediately going to be shot. I mean, I think more attention. The Holocaust happened and it's a good thing. Infinite Outlaw 2019. That me reading that comment is going to be the clip that people cut out and then use against me when I try to get a job. I think the real ethno state that people should be talking about is Israel, because Israelis are literally Nazis. Like, people don't realize this, is that the state of Israel, it's not the same as Nazi Germany, but they've done the best at hiding the fact that they're Nazis, which is ironic because I'm a BuzzFeed writer. I'm gonna cherry pick your words. It's true. Big brain, the Holocaust didn't happen. Biggest brain, the Holocaust didn't happen, but I wish it did. Ah! It's true. It's true. This is how these people think. But like, yeah, the Israelis are basically like Zionism, and like the way that their state is run, the way that they're trying to kick out all the Muslims and stuff and create a Jewish ethno state. That Jews are an ethnicity, and our country was our holy land and all this other stuff. It's very messed up. I mean, they started giving medicine to Arab and Palestinian prisoners as a way to test medicine on them. Anti-border yet pro-Israel is a contradiction. Exactly. But like, they've been testing medicines, experimental medicines on Palestinians and Arabs and stuff in prison without their consent. And like, Israel, they shoot people. They shoot people in the Gaza Strip, children, many. They arrest protesters and stuff. It's terrible. Imagine being so disgusting you get kicked out of dozens of countries throughout history. Yeah, like, why do you think America is allegiant to them? Because America has an economic interest in Israel. We wouldn't be allied with Israel or Saudi Arabia if not for the fact that we trade with them and they can counter Islamic influence in the area. So, for example, Saudi Arabia has extensive trade deals with us, and we get their oil. Iran, however, nationalized their oil. Thus, U.S. companies cannot come in and take their oil. They have to, pay the Iranian state, and then the Iranian state can put it into whatever they want to put that money into. But it's the government's oil. It's not, U.S. companies can't come in and invest, as it were, and take those resources. And so the USA, they like Israel and they like Saudi Arabia, even though arguably they're some of the biggest human rights violators in the world right now. They like those places because benefits us in economically to like those places. Whereas Iran, because they nationalized the oil industry, we have a lot of reasons not to like Iran, despite the fact that Iran has better human rights than Saudi Arabia, for example. We're willing to give the Israelis nuclear weapons as we did because that's an ally in the area. They can counter the influence of, well, I mean, in the 60s, it was influence of the Soviets, but nowadays it's influence of Iran that we need to protect Israel. Israel was like our buddy against the Soviet Union back then. The Syria and what was his name? Al something in Egypt. It's his last name has an N in it, but like when Egypt and Somalia and these places became socialist states, that was Soviet influence over the area, and Israel was always the guy who was pushing that type of stuff out. A lot of even evangelical Christians massive Israel fetish. I think the reason why Christians do is because it's just their politics. Boomers love Israel. I know a lot of people who are boomers who they don't like Israel, but there are a lot of, I think it's just normies like Israel, like people who are in the normal cultural paradigm like Israel. Did someone say Evangelion? Oh no! But yeah, like I think it's just pro-Americanism in general, and a lot of evangelical Christians are super pro-America. So if you're super pro-America, you have to be super pro-Israel because, the economic interests of America are in Israel, and thus the propaganda put out by the American state is going to be pro-Israel as well. And whenever you criticize Israel in America on the media or as a politician, you're immediately considered anti-Semitic. And so the media, which is owned by big corporations that have interests in the United States government and the CIA as well, the CIA is going to do the bidding of those big corporations, which is to be pro-Israel, because Israel represents the big corporations' economic interests. The oil industry is tied to the news industry. So the news industry is going to call anyone who criticizes them anti-Semitic. And it's all of these things are connected together. That's the thing, is that there's corruption on every side, unfortunately. I don't know if a lot of people know about Operation Mockingbird. Operation Mockingbird was literally the CIA's effort to control the media back in the 1960s. And stuff like COINTELPRO led to a lot of teachers and stuff being fired and their careers being ruined for having political beliefs and stuff. Let's see. Why do so many Jews run so many media companies, huh? What's the least biased news source? That's a hard question because everyone is biased on some level. Like everyone is always biased, but in terms of like people who are generally right, in my opinion, and have less and lie less, surprisingly enough, RT. I like Russia Today quite a bit, which is surprising because you would expect Russia Today to be the most corrupt one, because Vladimir Putin is a literal dictator, and so like when your head of state is this dictatorial authoritarian figure, you wouldn't expect RT to be as good as it is, but they do debunk a lot of common misconceptions, and there's people from the right and the left who work on RT. He's a goddamn good one. Putin's okay. I don't agree with a lot of things that he does, but he's done some good things for the Russian people. He's okay. He's an imperialist like all the other ones. I don't see any difference between Putin and Theresa May or Putin and Trump or any of these people. Not because they're allied. I have to deal with this every day, is that people believe that Russia stole our election or that Russia is conspiring with Trump. And it's just insane. I hate it. I hate it so much. Am I a Bernie bro? I support Bernie Sanders. I'm going to vote for him in 2020. I wouldn't really call myself a Bernie bro because Bernie's a social democrat. And I think social democracy is good. It's worked for a lot of countries, but I don't think it addresses enough problems. I think you can only reform you can only reform capitalism so much when the sickness is in the system itself. It's not in you can't you know it's like going to somebody who has an injury, a leg injury, right? Um, and if their leg is broken, you can give them medicine to make the leg less painful. But at the end of the day, they're going to need a new leg. And the problem with the American system is that people like Bernie Sanders and FDR and previous reformists have come in and they want to give the leg medication to make it less painful. But the leg is always going to be broken. And you need a new system. Let's see. What are my opinions on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? I think she's a clown. I think she's wrong about certain things, but she's generally correct on most things. My problem, one of my big problems with her is that she said the world is going to end in 12 years. It's not going to literally end. She misspoke when she says that. It's in 12 years. A lot of experts say that climate change, the effects of climate change, won't be able to be fixed. And so in 12 years, the world will be closer to ending. It's not that it's literally going to end. So she misspeaks on a lot of things, but generally speaking, she is correct. I just hate anti-white sentiments from these politicians. I completely agree. 100%, my man. We need to stop dividing people up by race, and that includes white people. Fuck affirmative action. Fuck anti-white sentiment. That is not what we need. Affirmative action is literal bullshit. But it's white people. White people aren't the problem. It's individuals. We're all on the same side. Think and pink. Yeah, like it. We shouldn't. There's a reason why people say these things is because they think race is the problem or gender is the problem and all these different things. But everyone's being affected. Poor people who are white deal with the same stuff that black people who are white deal with. Like, the problem isn't with race or gender, it's with the system itself. It's a class issue. It's these anti-white sentiments, they get nowhere. They do nothing. They help no one. And I hate it as well. I think it's very bad. Cyberpunk. I'm actually made of wires and LEDs on the inside. Yes. But yeah, I don't think AOC is a clown. I think she's generally right about most things. I just think she's not a good speaker. She doesn't articulate her ideas well enough. She's right about money being in the media too much, PAC money being in politics too much. But again, my problem with her again is that she's just another reformist. She doesn't want to make enough of a change. I like Jeremy Corbyn a lot. I think Jean-Luc Mélenchon in France is very good, and I like Jeremy Corbyn quite a bit because he's giving an anti-imperialist stance, whereas these other politicians, like when Ilhan Omar said that Israel is bad, and all this other stuff, Ocasio-Cortez said, "Oh, we need to not offend people's sensibilities and stuff. We need to not offend people's sensibilities. You're being anti-Semitic." And it's like, no, we need to be offending people's sensibilities. People need to be offended because that's how you make a change. You can't make a change by saying, "Oh, we don't need to offend anybody." That's not how it works. No. Change Infinite Outlaw for President 2050. Yuan Pington as Secretary of Defense. Hell yeah. Let's bring in the Zoomer utopia. With cyberpunk and state-funded transhumanism development at our side. Let's go. But like but yeah, like it's these types of things where it's like, if let's make merge with machine again, hell yeah. That's what we gotta do. Let's do state-funded transgenderism instead. Oh God, that's like my worst nightmare. I've had the left hates me for a lot of reasons because I'm very skeptical of trans people. This because they say that, oh, you're born trans and all these other things. You're not trans. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. You choose to be trans. Like it I don't you can if you're having trans people suicide rates are through the roof. Now, that is true, but it's because they don't know how to deal with their issues. The version transhumanism, the Chad anarcho-primitivism. I was thinking about anarcho-primitivism for a while. I think it's really interesting, but I don't think it's practical. I think anarcho-primitivism is good as a lifestyle for individual people, but it shouldn't be the way that a system of government should be. I don't think that could ever work. But if you want to live as an anarcho-primitivist, I'd say that's very cool. The Uber Chad post-human moss world. Yes, we need moss specifically. We need to build the world out of moss. But actually forgot what my point was. Oh yeah, AOC, like, always on Twitter, she's like, when these controversies happen, she won't ever give a clear stance because she's afraid of offending people. Of like, oh, we shouldn't offend Zionists and stuff, and we shouldn't criticize Israel for these things. And it's just, ugh, gross, very gross. You gotta stand up. You gotta stand up for what's right. And I don't think she's always doing that. She gets too caught up. Oh boy, I'm live again. The stream keeps on stopping. AOC is a cop, I agree. Her demographics are non-political normies, that's why. She appeals to the masses, that's true. It's populism. But populism it's a good tool, but you can't let it consume your entire political base. I think using Christianity or like other religions is good because you can say that, like, for example, if you wanted to start making policies that will save more lives, there's like, oh, Jesus would have supported universal health care. I mean, that's pretty good. I think that's a good way of talking about these things, but you shouldn't let that be like your entire political ideology where it's just like always say what every single person in the room is thinking. Alienation is a bad political tool, which is why anti-white cis male is not the way to go. Exactly. It's you have to have a balance where, like, they're alienating the wrong people, but they're also being populist towards the wrong people, in my opinion. And I don't think anti-white sentiment should become a normie thing, but it is a normie thing in, like, New York City and these types of places. It's becoming a normie thing to be anti-white, and that's just not okay. Oh geez, oh man, and I live in Kentucky, and in Kentucky it's a normie thing to be, it's a normie thing to be anti-SJW, and it's a little bit normie to be anti-black. It was funny. My dad's friend over, who cares about white people? Race doesn't even exist on the internet. I agree. But my dad had this friend over. He was like, have you ever gone to Hunter S. Thompson's farm? I have never visited Hunter S. Thompson's farm. I want to read his book. The movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas with Johnny Depp is very good. That's a great movie. But I want. Let's see. I lost my train of thought. My memory is so bad these days because when I took antipsychotics in the second time I went to the mental hospital, that it forever changed my memory, where it's harder for me to remember things now than it was before because the medicines that I've taken have literally made my memory worse than it used to be. So I'll just forget something right as it's happening. Have I ever taken Seroquel? Thankfully, I have not. I have taken risperidone, haloperidol, Latuda, Lexapro, Lamictal, hydroxyzine, Xanax. What's the other one? There's amitriptyline, I think it's called. yeah, it is good that I got off of them. I don't like taking these medicines. Latuda was probably one of the worst ones. Latuda is not good. Should I become a V YouTuber? Are you talking slash V on 4chan? Um, uh, let's see. I've taken 20 and 50 of Seroquel and it made me drowsy and unable to function. Oh yeah, that I used to take Prozac at one point as well. I think I took 60 milligrams of Prozac. Um, the highest so I took 60 milligrams. That was way higher than I probably should have been on. It was hard to get off of that. Um, but I've taken a lot of medicines. None of them worked. None of them worked at all. They just made it hard to have a sex drive. Seroquel and lithium made me a zombie. Yeah, I hear lithium's pretty bad for a lot of people. Just smoke weed. Well, that's all you got to do is take CBD supplements or smoke weed. You know, start out with a low THC indica, and then you know start out with a little bit to get used to it, and then go to the strativas and stuff like that, and start experimenting more with it. Don't take antidepressants. Just smoke weed or drink alcohol. Um, you know, start out with a little bit and then move your way up from there. Low dose on LSD or microdose. That's what they call it. Microdose on LSD. It'll make you more focused throughout the day, and it'll make it to where you're able to, you know, have more energy and be more creative. But just don't do antidepressants and stuff like that. Anything. Most of the time, when doctors give you stuff for mental health, it will not help. It will not help. Let's see. Now I'm beginning to lose my train of thought. Anti-anxiety medicine I think is the most effective one that they can give. If it's like benzodiazepines and stuff like that, like don't take Klonopins or anything like that. If the doctor gives you a Klonopin, just stay away from it because it'll be hell to get off of those. But most benzodiazepines you don't want to take for anxiety regularly. Take something like, let's see, what is this? I took Prozac for 1 month and it made everything 200 times worse. And I took 200 mg max dose of Stateroline and it did nothing for months. Stimulants are good. Anti-X Ritalin is very similar to Coke. Oh, geez. I've heard horror stories about people with Ritalin of it making things very bad or just outright not working. But I've never myself taken Ritalin. But I think stimulants are generally pretty okay. Adderall helps. Just don't take Adderall every day. I'm very against taking anything every day because it changes your brain chemistry. You want to take anything every day. But Adderall, if you're having a lot of trouble focusing, I think it can be helpful. Drugs are generally cool. Are you content with sobriety, nicotine every day? Am I content with sobriety? I mean, I drink sometimes. I don't want to drink all the time because while you're young, if you drink, it'll impede your brain development. And so I try to be very careful about drinking. But I do drink sometimes. Nicotine, I don't have an opinion on nicotine. I've used a few nicotine products, but sobriety as in being straight edge, am I okay with that? I mean, I don't want to be straight edge, and I'm not straight edge, but like if I were in a situation where I had to be straight edge, I think I would be fine. It's just a matter of knowing how to deal with it. No drugs whatsoever. Yeah, I think I would be fine. Because in November I'm spending 10 weeks at a French immersion school, and if I were there, I would definitely not be able to have any kinds of drugs. And so spending 10 weeks at a French immersion school, only being allowed to speak French, only being allowed to interact with the teacher and other students and stuff, that's going to be a situation where it's like I have no access to any of those kinds of things. I don't know. Those French have some pretty fire weed. It's true. The French and Albanians and the French, they have the most weed out of any country in Europe. In Albania, it just grows outside. It's like you can just Albania has like the biggest supply of outdoor growing weed out of any country in Europe, and then Kazakhstan in Asia has the most marijuana growing outside as well, because it was like a traditional thing back then. Love watching the fights when Albania plays France in soccer. Yeah, I like soccer. I only really watched the FIFA World Cup, but I want to watch more of it because soccer is fun. Soccer has way more action than any other sport. Because football, it's all just waiting around. Just sitting there and watching American football is like sitting and watching yourself die slowly. Like it's all just commercials and waiting time. With soccer, you're able to be able to enjoy it more thoroughly. I think pro gaming is boring. I use team soccer when talking to Yanks. Are you British as well? There's so many British people in the chat. So many British viewers of my channel. Maybe it's a genetic thing. Maybe I attract Brits. But yeah, like I'm South African from. Oh wow, you're South African? Cool, man. I want to visit South Africa. It seems very dangerous to go there as a white person, but I'd like to go to South Africa. I think actually on the topic, South Africa has like the best weed law in the entire world because you guys just allow people to cultivate and grow it in the home. It's awesome. Feels bad, tramp stamp, then blacks trying to lynch you. Yeah, this is not what Nelson Mandela would have wanted at all. The African National Congress is extremely corrupt and seems to blame the apartheid for all their problems. But let's see. I'm white, lol. The white genocide narrative is a bit overblown. Is it? Okay, that's good. Yeah, I just this is what I get from the media. So what I've seen from the media is that, it's terrible to be a white person in South Africa. But I would like to live there for a little bit because I think it's a very pretty country. Let's see. It's only rural areas where the land needs to be reformed. Oh, okay. So the farmers are suffering. Makes sense. Let's see. I've heard there's this South African YouTuber called Serpenzee or something like that. He makes videos about China, and he's kind of a weird right winger. I don't agree with him on everything, but like he's talked about South Africa a lot and how like when he was a kid, these black folks broke into his home and like raped his mom and sister and stuff. Black and white Zoomers get along. Weed is our common ground. Hey, nice. Have I read any of Nick Land? I have not. But yeah, like I was watching this YouTuber, this South African YouTuber, and he talks about like all of these cases of black folks just doing horrible things to white folks in South Africa. So maybe he's had some specific experiences, but all the media says it sounds very bad. I don't know. Maybe when I visit there, we'll have to meet up and smoke some bud. It's cherry picking for right wing approval. I see. Okay, that makes sense. The Cap Lapper also makes some interesting content on South Africa. Okay, I'll have to check that out. South Africa is so interesting to me because you're like the only African country that has like gay rights written in the Constitution. I guess thanks Nelson Mandela for that, but it's like it's so weird. You're the only African country that has that. I believe you're the only country that has that as well in the entire world, that it says in the Constitution that gay people have to be treated well. It's pretty cool. But soccer is a good sport. I want to go to Vietnam during soccer season, because if you look at any footage of Vietnam during soccer season, it's like everybody's out in the street and they're waving flags and stuff. They've got face paint and they're all, screaming, about the country and stuff. Um, have you personally played soccer? I have not. I would like to. I would actually like to play soccer. I need to get out of this goddamn room. I just never do. But soccer does seem quite fun. Um, I've played a lot of basketball. I like basketball a lot. Most people don't expect. Whenever I tell people that I like basketball in real life, they don't expect it. But I do like basketball quite a bit. Um, Sports is one of the few things that I can find common ground with normies on. Is I'm willing to watch a basketball game with them. That's a weapon, dude. Knowing about sports is a weapon in the real world. It's like if you pull that out, it's you have the entire war won already. Because conversation is a war. It's just you trying to be able to appeal to the masses. And if you can pull out, it's like pulling out an atomic bomb. It's like if you have knowledge, any knowledge about sports, it's like you've just nuked Hiroshima and Nagasaki at the same time. Like you have won. You have won that war. Even though the atomic bomb wasn't the reason why Japan stopped in World War II, but that's a side point. Yeah, it's a good conversation to starter to infiltrate the normies. It is. I think I think for advice on how to talk to normal folks is just to be very enthusiastic. Train yourself to be a very enthusiastic partner. Move your hands around a lot and talk very loudly, and make eye contact. Show that you care about what they're saying. Say like, "Oh, I understand," and "Oh, that makes," and stuff, and make little responses to the points that they make, so the conversation doesn't seem like you're not listening. And instead of just asking people a bunch of questions, always be adding stuff in the conversation. I filler myself and try not to be as non-threatening when talking to normals. Yeah, it really depends on who you're talking to and how threatening you seem. But you know, it's smile, and stuff like that. It helps. I'm gonna go watch Oni Plays later, man. Hey, see ya. It was good having you around, DZ Dog. I haven't watched Oni Plays in quite a long time. I watched the video he did with Jontron. That was good. Oh boy. Hmm. And see, now I just want to travel. My entire channel is going to become a travel vlog channel eventually. I feel like when I'm an adult, it's just going to become a travel vlog channel. You have no idea. You have no idea. But I'm excited for when I get back from the French school, because once I get back from the French school, I will have spent 1,120 hours entirely immersed in French. And so I'll have a good enough base to start listening to podcasts and stuff. And I'm just going to expose myself to more French 24/7. The travel meme has been oversaturated by normies who say travel is life. Living in rural Asia for $1.50 a day feels good. Do you live in rural Asia? Oh my God, that's awesome. Yeah, normies. I don't know, the Jake Paul type of YouTuber who vlogs about travel is generally sad. No was just a wish. Oh, okay. But I mean, living in Thailand, I heard, is pretty good because Thailand actually has pretty good internet. Like, Thailand is one of those places where you can live cheaply and still get good internet. Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, places like that. Generally, pretty cheap. I mean, Vietnam costs a bit more, but a lot of foreigners go to Thailand to teach English. That is true. It's very marketable. It's a marketable skill in Thailand, as well as in Vietnam and Japan, especially. I mean, Japan's the meme country. You know, everybody goes to Japan to teach English, but it's cheaper and more economically viable to do it in a third world country like Laos or Thailand. Let's see. What are the main countries you want to visit? Oh, geez. Oh, man, you opened up a can of worms there, buddy. The main countries. I'd like to go to Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan. I don't know how to say that. Bishkek, the place that has Bishkek in it. Kyrgyzstan. I want to go there. I want to go to South Africa. I want to go to Vietnam. I want to go to Bhutan, and Algeria, France. There's a lot of places that I want to go to, but like the top three. If I were to give a top three, I would have to say Kyrgyzstan, Vietnam, and see Bhutan. Yeah, that's the top three: Kyrgyzstan, Vietnam, and Bhutan. But if I were to talk about countries that I want to go to the most, I can literally do that all day because I want to go everywhere. I just want to keep going to places, you know. If I were to settle down in one place specifically, like to stay in a place and not just travel, probably to live in a place, I would probably want to live in Quebec in Canada, like Montreal. I would want to live in Montreal in Canada, or I don't know, like Korea or something like that. But visiting, there's a lot of fucking places I want to go. What's the appeal? Seeing the difference of lifestyle or in scenery? I think it's a combination of things. I really love foreign culture. I love being able to see how other people live, being able to understand their mindset better, and being able to go to a place that's aesthetic, very aesthetic. Because I want to go to Mongolia as well, but the thing with imagine slaving away for 15 years and retiring in a cheap Asian country. God, I wish I could do it. Hey, you can do it. I mean, even if you just had a disability, for example, you could just save your disability money up and then go to a Asian country. Because when you win a disability case, they give you, what is it, $15,000, $10,000 for the year that you spent not being employed after you win the case. So there's $10,000 right there that you can invest into an Asian country. But like the appeal for me is being able to like experience these foreign cultures, being able to talk to people and understand what their life is like, to live a part of their life and to be able to understand the mindset better. I get fascinated with that. That's why I love foreign languages, is because being able to I mean Nelson Mandela said this, was that talking to a man in his second language, you're talking to his head, whereas talking to him in his native language, you're talking to his heart. And so by learning a language and being in the place that person is in, it's like I'm becoming a part of them almost. It's like part of them are becoming me, and I'm still myself, of course, but I learn more. I learn more by being in that place, and the aesthetic, the food, the things that make up their life is less than 2% of Patreon users make over the federal minimum wage. Oh, geez. And they still live on that money anyway. I mean, you can be a porn artist and live in like Cambodia or something and live for barely anything. You want a foreigner in you, huh? Yeah. I mean, that can in both ways, huh? Yeah. Yeah, like I want TFW can't get meat bucks in Bongland. Where is that? Is this a slang term for another country? I don't know where that is. Yeah, like, let's see, what was I gonna say? Bongland is UK. Oh God, you're in hell. Gee, oh, ugh, gross. Yeah, like I would never want to live in the UK. From all of the people who I've known who've lived in the UK, they fucking hate it there, and I can see why. It's terrible. The UK is it looks like a horrendous place. Which Scotland is really beautiful. It's sad that they're part of the UK. What they should do is Scotland should have a Skexit and then leave the UK, and then they should join the EU. That would be hilarious. I could see it happening too. That's the sad part. Like Scotland and Wales leave the UK, and then they become union instead. It would never happen, but that would be really funny. Um, uh, but yeah, like, uh, what's the worst U.S. state in your opinion, or your least favorite? From the ones I've lived in most of the United States. Well, I not most. I've lived in all of the coasts. I've lived on the West Coast. I've lived on the East Coast, the North, the South. The worst. I still want to go to England more than anything, though, because I am obsessed with the history. I think English history is actually kind of boring. All they did was conquer a bunch of other territories that had better culture, but I can understand liking the aesthetic. But so the worst state in the U.S. that I've probably Tennessee. Tennessee was very bad. I didn't like Tennessee. Um, the Arkansas is very bad. I don't like Arkansas very much. Um, that's actually a tough question because most of the states in the U.S. are bad. Alabama, I don't like Alabama from the time I spent there. I don't like Mississippi. Um, yeah, those states. I don't like those states. The worst one probably is Arkansas. Arkansas is very bad. Um, my favorite state in the let's see. Damn, calling out all the red states. What about NYC? I hate NYC. Okay, I've been to New York. I hate it there. Like there's so much stuff going on at once, and there's so many people. It's just like a mind fuck of a million different ethnicities entering their cock into your mind and shoving it in and out. Like it's just there's so I hate it. I hate NYC so much. All their infrastructure is falling apart. It's like they can't build a building worth a damn. They have to constantly be building more buildings, and thus their old infrastructure ends up being smashed in the face of other projects that are being done. And everything is wrong there. The people are shit. The infrastructure is shit. It's I hate it. I hate NYC. NYS is one of the best states to live. I'm sure the state is fine itself, but New York City is terrible. Most of my experience in New York is from that state. New Jersey is even worse. I hate New Jersey. Hate it there. And I've been through New Jersey many times. Massachusetts is pretty cool. How's California? I have never been to California. I have, however, been to Nevada. I've been to Las Vegas and other parts. What second or third world country should I move to where I can live on Patreon bucks? Cambodia. Cambodia or Thailand. Although, yeah, Cambodia and Thailand are generally pretty good picks. You don't want to go anywhere in Africa because Africa is very unsafe. If you want a safe place that's cheap, Cambodia is literally the safest place that you can go that's very cheap. Laos isn't too bad either. Southeast Asia generally is pretty good. It's too hot. If it's too hot there, I don't know what to do, man. Because if you go anywhere that's cold, you're gonna have to spend excess of money on heating, and so it's gonna cost the same as it does in the UK. But let's see, cold places that are cheap to live in. Kazakhstan, I guess. Like Kazakhstan, last time I checked, didn't cost too much money. Maybe Nepal. The problem with Nepal though is that their infrastructure is just so bad that it ends up costing the same amount as living in the US. So yeah, I guess Kazakhstan, maybe Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, someplace like that. I don't know. See, possibly Turkmenistan now that the political situation over there is getting more stable. But it is more dangerous to go there than it is to go to Tajikistan. Why do I know these things? Let's see. let me scroll back in the chat. How's California? Yeah, so I've never been to California. Go to Nevada. If you like California or the idea of California, go to Nevada instead. Nevada, I have family in California, so I may not have been there, but I have some authority on it because I have family who lives there. And my dad is from Los Angeles. He grew up in Los Angeles, so I have a lot of secondhand Californian experience. Eastern Europe is a hit or miss. Went to Serbia and it was a mess. Bulgaria too. Oh, Ukraine. Go to Lviv. Literally, no thank you. Go to Lviv in Ukraine and you'll be fine. Because Lviv is on the border with Poland, and because it's on the border with Poland, it's a lot more safe than the areas that are close to Crimea and the Black Sea. Stay away from the Black Sea. That area is volatile. Stay away from Donetsk and those types of places because the People's Republic of Donetsk is a Russian-backed state that's a military government there. But stay away from those areas. Go to Lviv near Poland. And you'll be fine. It's very cheap to live there. You can live like a king on barely any money, and you'll be fine. It's spelled Lviv. Go there. Let's see. All of my family live in Florida, North Carolina, NY, Puerto Rico, MA, and Alaska. Massachusetts is very cool. I like Maine. I like Maine a lot for US states. Maine was such a wonderful place to live. I really cherished my time living in Maine, even though I was extremely poor and I had to spend my Patreon money on scissors to cut my hair so I could do a job interview. That was the last money that we had, and I had to use my Patreon money to buy food as well, to be able to eat so I could actually walk to go get a job. That was a rough time, man. If I didn't have that Patreon money, I probably would have... Oh, geez. Yeah, like, I spent like several days not eating in Maine when I lived in Maine. I had to literally go to the mental hospital so I could eat food. But that's a story for another day, I guess. But yeah, like Oklahoma's a good US state. Thank goodness you're still alive. I mean, I've had a lot of close to death experiences, but they've all been pretty good. I think that type of thing, looking back, is just interesting. Like, yeah, at the time it felt bad, but I just think it's interesting to look at, you know. If I died or if I didn't die, it wouldn't make any difference to me because I'd be dead, but because I'm alive, I can look at it and say, oh, that's interesting, you know. Let's see. Nevada is very cool. If you want to go somewhere that's good, go to Nevada. I like Nevada a lot. There's one of the great things about Nevada is that there's weed stores on every corner, and most of them run for 24 hours. Yeah, I almost died several times, but it's all good. Literally, though. Literally, that's how my mind works. Let's see, what was I gonna say? Oh, geez, I forgot. Have you ever considered going voluntarily homelessness, like fright hopping? Can I buy weed as a foreigner at a dispensary? Yes, you can. Have I considered voluntarily homelessness? Yes, I have. It's actually time to. I have to take medicine, but yeah, like I've voluntarily homelessness. It seems like an interesting concept.